session is resource review. So learn about tools available to support your work. And is it just Sarah and I? I was kind of teasing Angela, but is it Sarah and I? I thought Angela had a role in this too.
This is the one thing that Angela is not a part of. Every other thing of this,
okay.
she is.
I was happy to share the spotlight with the two of you.
That was nice, Angela. Very nice of you.
Sarah, I'll get us crowns.
Yeah, for sure.
As long as it's smaller than mine.
Okay. Well, yours says ICAPS. I was just going to get regular crowns. I can't get ICAPS. All right. Our numbers have plateaued. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session. Hope you all enjoyed the lunch. Your chicken was delightful and everyone had a wonderful walk or view or something fun to do for lunch. My name is Amy Julian. I'm the director for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. And we partner with the SIPDC, Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, to support the ICAPS programming. And if you were in my breakout session at 11, we talked about the levels of support. Like, we are very serious when we say, reach out, contact us, what can we do to help you? Because that is our charge. That is what we want to do. So the director for SIPDC is Sarah. And Sarah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Amy. Yes, I'm Sarah Goldhammer from the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center. Amy and I are very excited. Our teams love to collaborate and to support you. And since in ICAPS programming, we look at partnerships, we like to model that in our professional development as well. And as we get started, you'll see that the resources that we have to share, Amy and I are going to tag team it a bit, but you'll see that all these resources are things that we've all had a hand in. And the bottom line is we are here to support you in whatever way that's possible. I want to point out again, as we did this morning, that the Transitions Academy is a year-long event. This is the kickoff. This is the fall convening, but there is much more to come. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. We have two really awesome resources that we want to showcase to get started. One is we have a resources for FY24 Transitions Academy, and I believe that link is going to go in the chat. And then also the ICAPS manual has been updated and really it's been overhauled. So give me a minute and I'm going to show you a few of these things. Let's take a look at the resources. This is the Transitions Academy resources, and this is several pages long. I'm going to attempt not to scroll, but not too much. I am going to scroll. But if you are the person who likes to zoom in on
that just a little bit so we can make it a little bigger for them.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Would you zoom in on it just a little bit? Because
yes. Can I make it bigger?
You've got 100% over there. Make that. Yeah. There we go.
Okay. So here's the thing, you guys. I don't expect you to read this. I wanted to show it to you holistically. I want to give you a couple of highlights. But I don't expect, and I promise you, I will not read this to you unless it's important to you that I read it. Then I'll do that later today after we're finished. But it gives you an overview of the Transitions Academy. The first thing we come to is that ICAPS manual, and I'm going to take you there because I want to show you that real quickly. And we'll come back to the resources. But the ICAPS manual, as I mentioned, has had a complete overhaul. And I just want to give a shout out to the ICSPS and SIPDC teams who spent a lot of time and collaborated with ICCB to make this the manual that it is now. So those of you in adult education, you'll have a very extensive provider manual for overall. This is very specific to ICAPS and bridges. And I am going to scroll just a little bit because I want you to see the clickable table of contents. A couple of things that I'm going to point out to you. The first one is, what's the difference between an ICAPS and a bridge? And if you don't know yet, we really encourage you to go and take a look at this. There's a little video. It's an overview. We encourage you to share that with other colleagues, because here's the thing. Words matter. Terms matter, and there is a big difference between ICAPS and a bridge. And it does say bridges and ICAPS are connected, but they are not the same. So that's important to know. So I'm going to point that out to you first. And then let me take you back up here to the table of contents. Angela talked this morning partly about data entry. So if that is of interest to you and you want to go back and share that with somebody, as mentioned earlier today, all of the presentations are going to be recorded and will be available on the agenda look back next week. But here's some of that information. Some of the screenshots that Angela used this morning are also in the ICAPS manual, and how to make sure that you're getting the biggest benefit from everything that you're doing as you serve your students. And I promise I'm not going to go through this all the way, but I should probably show you the ICAPS approval process. That was another thing that Angela talked about today. And here it is with links to the JOT form, everything in this manual. And it's really meant to be a digital manual because there's all these clicks in here. There's even a place that defines definitions, gives definitions for different terms. So when I said that the terms matter, if you're not sure, because there's a lot to know, please use this manual and go back and check it out. So that's the ICAPS manual. Let me go back to, the resources. I mentioned the ICAPS manual. I want to highlight learning communities. This is an awesome opportunity for people to get together and learn and grow in smaller settings throughout the year, because we know that this is a lot of information. So some of the topics that we talk about today may be reviewed in a learning community. There's other topics that come up and most of the learning community topics come from requests from the field. So later today, we're going to have an evaluation that you fill out. If there's something that you want to see, that's your chance to request it. Also, and the other thing you can do is just email and say, hey, I'd like to see this, or give us a call. And Amy and I are going to share our contact information. We'd love to have that. The ICAPS website, I know that you are already familiar with that because you had to go to the ICAPS website to click and get here. So if that was the first time that you've been there, go back and take a look. We have ICAPS office hours where Angela Gerberding comes and answers policy related questions. It's also a great place to network and learn what other programs are doing and to meet other people. We have mentors available for you. We've done that since the beginning of the Transitions Academy, which we're now right at about 10 years, I believe. I don't think Amy and I put our heads together to decide how many this is, but we're about 10 years for the Transitions Academy. We also have some new resources on the Excellence in Adult Education website. We have new training options on iLearn, which I'm going to spotlight after Amy talks. There's planning documents, there's the transitions newsletter, and then also the workforce, the WIOA webinars that happen just about every Wednesday. So check those out as well. Amy, was there anything that I skimmed over that you would like to take a deeper dive?
Nope, I threw a bunch of stuff in the chat. So my one takeaway, if you take nothing else away from our day together, that everything you need is at icapsillinois.com. So the manual, the resources, the tools, the learning community, the registration for the cohort combos next week is all on the ICAPS website. And put some direct links in there. Erin threw some direct links in there. And then I also threw in Sarah, you and I's email and our phone number. So reach out. I cannot say enough that we are really most seriously here to support you wherever you are in your ICAPS journey.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Then let's go ahead and I'm going to toss the ball to Amy to talk about the WIOA Evaluation Toolkit.
So one of the things we wanted to share with you that's not on the ICAPS website, but we can link to it, is the WIOA Evaluation Toolkit. And this toolkit was put together with the Continuous Improvement Committee of the IWIB. So we talked about Kathy, who's not here today, so I'm sure her ears are ringing because we've talked about her quite a bit. She leads the evaluation work group for the Continuous Improvement Committee of the IWIB. And this charge was to create something that would allow the system to look at programs, processes, and policies across the workforce development system, and how do we focus on evaluation. If you want to go to the next slide there. The purpose of the toolkit is to provide a framework and tools for effective evaluation for statewide workforce programs, policies, and processes across all the various titles. This toolkit is built off of the DOL toolkit that was done for the state. So Department of Labor came out and said, here's an evaluation toolkit to help states really prioritize evaluation. And Illinois said, that's great, let's Illinoisify it and make it applicable to our local constituents. So what we have done is created this toolkit. It's all online, it's all Navigate, and we're going to take you there in just a second, but you can look through what that is. One of the things that's really important is the toolkit uses the equity lens as a foundation based on the IWIB's Equity Task Force concept of equity. An equitable workforce development system is one where diversity, equity, and inclusion are foundational, in which race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, health, ability, and other demographic or geographic characteristics no longer predict our students' outcomes in the labor market. And so this was very pinnacle to the way in which we moved forward with the evaluation toolkit. Also, many of you might have heard of Jennifer Foster. She is the Deputy Executive Director for ICCB, and she was very instrumental in formulating that definition for the equitable workforce development system. So that's the purpose of the toolkit. It's there as a resource for you to use as you're developing policy, as you're implementing policy, as you're implementing processes within your local area. And we'll go to the next slide. So the equity lens, the application of the equity lens, you're going to hear a lot about this. This is really a priority, not only for ICCB. Any of you who are working with community colleges know that you now have a DEIA tool, a DEI plan that you're putting together with ICCB. And so in addition to that, this is an evaluation portion that you could use. I mean, it's out there, it's free, and it was made federal dollars. So have a good time, have fun with it. But we're going to apply an equity lens to ensure that individuals have equal dignity, value, and opportunity to participate fairly and fully in all dimensions of the workforce development system. And so when we look at that equity lens, and we look at the application of that, that's going to tie in not only with your work with ICAPS, but it's also going to tie in with your work with the workforce development system. As I said, the governor has also made equity a priority. So we have the commission report on workforce equity and access, and then we have the equity task force, and now for the IWIB we have the DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and access committee. So all of those are all around that application of equity. So our next slide shows you what the toolkit looks like, and we're going to play this video for you because it's going to walk you through a nice little summary of what the toolkit does, the whole background of it, and and that's there all the time for you to go in and use as a resource. So Sarah, if you want to click that, it should be hyperlinked. Perfect.
Welcome to the Evaluation Toolkit. This toolkit was created by the Evaluation Work Group of the Continuous Improvement Committee and is overseen by the Illinois Workforce Innovation Board. The Illinois Workforce Innovation Board, or IWIB, leads Illinois in the alignment of the workforce, education, and economic development throughout the state. This toolkit was created to increase transparency and analyze outcomes while reviewing programs, policies, and processes overseen by the IWIB. This evaluation toolkit is adapted from the 2020 Department of Labor Evaluation Toolkit, Key Elements for State Workforce Agencies. The Evaluation Committee customized the toolkit to make it applicable to programs, policies, and processes throughout Illinois' state workforce system. The purpose of this toolkit is to provide a framework and tools for effectively evaluating statewide workforce programs, policies, and processes across the various titles. This toolkit's foundation is based on the IWIB Equity Task Force's concept of an equity lens. A workforce system viewed through an equity lens is an equitable one where diversity, equity, and inclusion are foundational. It is a system in which race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, health, ability, and other demographic or geographic characteristics no longer predict participants' outcomes in the labor market. According to the Annie E. Casey Foundation, equity is the state, quality, or ideal of being just, impartial, and fair. The concept of equity is synonymous with fairness and justice. To be achieved and sustained, equity needs to be thought of as a structural and systemic concept. The Illinois workforce system will apply an equity lens that ensures all individuals have equal dignity, value, and opportunity to participate justly, fairly, and fully in all dimensions of academic, social, civic, and economic life to reach their full potential. An equity lens also ensures that workforce development system resources will be distributed in a balanced and fair manner. Applying an equity lens to evaluation involves increasing justice and fairness in all policy, processes, and programs. It takes into consideration historical and contemporary conditions that create uneven starting points for individuals within the workforce ecosystem. Aligning the procedures and processes of institutions or systems, as well as their distribution of resources, will serve to provide the optimal experience that supports all individuals in reaching their full academic, social, civic, and economic potential. The goals of this toolkit are to, first, provide a workable toolkit for evaluation to review programs, policies, and processes across the workforce, education, and economic development system. Second, analyze evaluation results to determine if they conform to intended outcomes leading to continuous improvement at the local level. And third, ensure processes remain valid and lead to organizational and management change. This toolkit contains 3 sets of resources. The first is based on the Department of Labor framework. The second consists of resources to guide evaluation. The third contains an acronym list and glossary. The first resource contains the full toolkit. It covers 9 sections. Section 1, Executive Summary. Section 2, Introduction to the Framework and Overview of Equity. Section 3, Introduction to Evaluation. Section 4, Logic Models. Section 5, Evaluation Planning. Section 6, Selecting an Evaluator. Section 7, Implementing Evaluation. Section 8, Participant Rights. Section 9, Acronym List. As you work through this toolkit, we encourage you to refer to the evaluation checklist to guide you through the process. You will also find professional development videos throughout the toolkit to give you further guidance. We look forward to you using this toolkit to help strengthen and recognize exceptional work in workforce programs, policies, and processes throughout Illinois.
Ta-da! So that's it in a nutshell. And if there are any questions, please let me know, and I'll throw the link to that toolkit in the chat. I think we can move on to other exciting resources.
All right, you're a hard act to follow, Amy, but I will do my best. So we have a couple of different things, and let me just mention, because the single set of learning objectives is something that I think is very valuable for everyone who's here today to hear about. I'm not going to do a deep dive. This is a very skimming, just so people understand what it is and why they're important. And I'm hoping that it will also be an aha moment, that you can see how some of the partnerships really are solidified through this. I'm also going to share some resources on some updated bridges. And even if you are outside of adult education, if you're a CTE member or a training partner, I think you'll find value, because I want to show you what we have to do, what we have to share with you. So anyway, that's what we're going to do for the next few minutes. So let me just ask you, let me get started. This SSLO, single set of learning objectives, that's different than student learning outcomes, although it's related. But I want to make the point that it is different. So if you know what SSLO is, I'd love for you to leap to your feet and shout, "Yes, I know." Now you do realize that I can't hear you. However, whoops. I'm not sure what happened with the internet right there, but I got to reset. But while I'm doing that, let me just, Ginger, thanks for putting a yes in there.
I leapt to my feet. That's what happened. It changed your whole.
Yes, I felt it here, Amy. That's but here's the thing, it's after lunch, and I know you had that conference chicken. So I want to make sure that everybody's like energized. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to share what is it? Why do we care about this? And how is it going to benefit my students? And I think I want to start with, instead of my students, how is it going to benefit our students? Because one of the in thinking about that words matter, thinking about all of the learners in Illinois as our students, and maybe they haven't gotten to us yet, or maybe they have already been there and moved on, but they're all ours. And we want to make sure that we're building systems that really can support all the learners that we have in Illinois. In order to do that, I want to start with a very quick overview. There's 3 core elements in ICAPS, and possibly this is something that you know, but I want to make sure that we start there, because as mandated through the WIOA legislation, the 3 components are adult education and literacy activities, workforce preparation activities, and workforce training. So our single set of learning objectives that aligns the ICAPS specific adult education content standards, workforce preparation skills, and workforce training competencies. So ICAPS programs use SSL to facilitate the contextualization of basic skills and the workforce preparation and the training skills. And it aligns all of these standards together. So what I can tell you is the secret sauce to success is this collaboration. Everyone pulls together to help our shared students succeed. Our students' success is our success, because when our students finish their outcomes, then we all succeed. And in case you didn't know, secret sauce is also what SSLO stands for. So it's that SS is also secret sauce, because a big part of the collaboration that we have are our shared learning outcomes. And it's a key ingredient to this success. So I want you to think about SSLOs as the secret sauce. SSLOs are the key ingredients in the support course, linking that training content to the basic skills or the vocabulary instruction. So again, we have the training component, and the adult education support course then aligns with that, and then students get that information in a deeper way, in as a review, as a relearn. There's lots of different ways that can, and I'm going to show you some examples in just a bit. But if we align our outcomes, that's how we share our single set of learning outcomes. So in order to do that, there's a few, there really aren't a lot of steps. Hopefully it's not super difficult. And again, I'm going to show you how programs have been doing this. First, we want to identify the outcomes that are in the training, the CTE course or any type of training course. Then we want to analyze how the English, math, and vocabulary, those adult education outcomes, relate to the training outcomes. Let me just take a minute, because in the session, the breakout session I was in at 10:30, one of our adult education programs told us that they've always taught skimming as a reading exercise, but then they related it to the manual that in the training program. So that is a very simple way. How do you align those outcomes? They're going to need to know this information, and we're teaching them skimming, but then we're going to marry it and put it together. So number 3 is that selecting the appropriate outcome, adult education outcome, and putting it together, revising the wording as appropriate to match training outcomes. I want to mention to you also that I told you that I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. If you or someone at your program needs to understand this at a deep level, there are 2 training exercises on iLearn, and we're going to put the link in there if you want to sign up for those. Those are separate. Don't do them now, because we've got a lot of important information to share with you, but just letting you know there is a deeper dive training available for you, and will be available for questions as well. So this isn't new. If you have looked at the ICAPS proposal form before, and I'm just giving you a screenshot of part of the ICAPS proposal form, it says right there, and Aaron, if you could also put in the JOT form, if anybody wants to take a look at the whole proposal form. And as Amy said before, all roads lead back to the ICAPS website. So that's where you're going to find the JOT form, is on the ICAPS website. What you're asked to do, one of the things that you're asked to do in your proposal is please give examples of how AE instruction, adult education instruction, has shared learning outcomes with the workforce training component. For example, as fractions are taught or utilized in welding, fractions are reviewed and practiced in the support course. So you can see there, wow, this could really benefit our learners, our shared learners, because they're learning it, but then they're practicing it again. And then maybe they're going back and learning in another contextualized way. So they get several passes at it. What does this look like? You're saying to me, I know you're saying this is secret sauce, Sarah. I see that it is. Now unpack it for me a little bit more. Absolutely, that's what we're going to do. Here is an example from a course submission for automotive transmission. And I'm not going to read the whole thing yet, but I just want to say that communicate effectively is a pretty common adult education outcome or standard. But if we're going to share it, now it's communicate effectively, and the emphasis will be placed on the ability to explain vehicle condition and repair procedures to customers with limited automotive background and knowledge. They're talking about me. How's somebody going to explain it to me, why my repairs are going to cost and what I need? So that's an example of how you would share a learning objective. Here's another one. Again, I highlighted some words because calculate and vocabulary, for those of you who are out there who are adult education peeps, that's common. You've seen those before. Oftentimes we see those words in our learning outcomes. But now what we're going to calculate, we're going to calculate gross pay. We're going to calculate net pay, deductions, and learn tax-related vocabulary. That's how it becomes a single set. We're taking what the information that was being shared in the training course and the adult education basic skills and vocabulary, aligning them and making the single set of learning objectives. Okay. I'm just going to give you a couple more. This to show you something different, to digital marketing and e-commerce ICAPS. Defining goals pertain to their marketing campaigns. Write engaging content for social media. Again, we do a lot of writing in adult education, but when we do it for social media, now it becomes part of this training program. Using our critical thinking, again, that's a skill that's taught in adult education, but we're going to apply it to the training by repurposing their content according to performance matrix. Yes, Lindsay says, one thing that's helpful when writing objectives is to make sure that they are measurable. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Lindsay. And students will learn to strengthen their knowledge of using decimals, fractions, and percentages to better understand campaign results. I know I'm giving you tons of examples, but when we kind of were putting these slides together, it's like, I think maybe giving people a lot of different examples, so no matter where they are, they see that information and see how it can apply. So, and I think that here, what it looks, I'm going to pack it a little bit more because this is actually from a syllabus. I gave you kind of broad strokes, like what people put in that box for their ICAPS proposal was what the last couple of slides have been. Those were the examples that they were sharing of how they would integrate the outcomes. And for a syllabus, this is actually taken from that digital marketing and e-commerce ICAPS. Attract and engage customers through digital marketing channels like search and email, and measure marketing performance through analytics and present insights. Now, once again, that's the adult education support course syllabus. So for those of you that are in that CTE world, you might be going, okay, yes, I see that. That's something that I would maybe have on my syllabus. So you can see how being able to look at this from different viewpoints would be very helpful, because then students hear it more than once. And they are able to review it. And then this is the weekly plan of weeks 10, 11, and 12. Think outside the box. Email marketing, understand how email marketing fits into a digital marketing strategy, write effective email copy, subject lines, and preview text, test, measure, and optimize an email marketing campaign, and measure and analyze email campaign results. So that gives you a lot of different examples. While we're unpacking this, I'd like to give you a couple of examples from a different industry, from healthcare. And again, read and discuss are things that are often adult education standards and adult education objectives, but it's going to be applied to a graph about levels of educational attainment as they relate to annual earnings, and calculate differences in earnings between various levels of education. Okay, so remember that slide where I told you there were 3 components of ICAPS, the adult education, the workforce prep, and the workforce training. This would be an example of the workforce prep, kind of those skills that you would need no matter what industry you're going into. So I want to make that point as well as you're thinking about this, is talking with, if you are a collaborative teacher, thinking about what are some things that if you're going into the workforce, regardless of what your industry is, these would be things that would be helpful to know. Students participate in assignments and discussions to enhance their ability to communicate effectively. And then this says specifically to explain procedures well to patients. But thinking back on it, we had almost the same thing in the automotive tech, right? Is being able to explain clearly the information needed, but it was about cars as opposed to about people. But still being able to communicate effectively is the bottom line. And then the last one on this screen is students will participate in active listening exercises to enhance their ability to listen to patient needs and healthcare provider instruction. So from the syllabus, again, self-advocacy in the workplace, communication and responsibility. So those give you some of the ideas. And again, I know I went through them quickly. My reason for that is all right. You guys give me a thumbs up. Are you there? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So if you, thank you very much, Ty, for saying that you're there. I appreciate that. If you want additional information, if you want additional training so that you can do a deeper dive on how to create and how to use, you can use the IET Design Toolkit. This actually came from a national initiative called the IET Design Camp, which Illinois has been a part of for the last couple of years. So there is some great information for you in there. There's some rubrics to go through. There's a lot of great resources. Then I mentioned before, and I'm going to bring it around again because this is the Illinois version of the integrating outcomes. And there's 2 different trainings for you there. There's a template, there's examples, there's an activity to go through. So there's a lot of resources for you. All right, so let's review before we leave the SSLO. What is it? Why do we care about this? And how is it going to benefit my students? What is it? It's the combining of outcomes to enhance connectedness of information. It's the secret sauce, the SS, you guys, the secret sauce, because whenever you talk about this with your training partner, perhaps they'll kind of understand the value of ICAPS. It's that connectedness. And also whenever we do this with our students, the students are going to understand, oh yeah, I learned this here, and here's another way to look at it. And that really helps me to learn at a deeper level. Why do we care about this? Because we care about our students. Remember that we're shared students. So we want to make sure that we create learning experiences that are the best chance for them to be able to have success. And how is this going to benefit my students? It's going to give them a different perspective. And so if you're like me, I love those little optical illusions where like you can see 2 different things or 3 different things. So I decided just to put one of them up there because I was hoping also to make that point that sometimes it's just a little bit of different perspective. Maybe it's just a restating of information. Maybe it's one different example, or maybe in the adult education support classroom, because they've known that teacher for a while, they feel more relaxed than they do. They feel like they need to, whatever the case may be, we want to make sure that we give students that chance for that different perspective. So that's one of the things that that a single set of learning objectives provides for our learners. All right, I know I went through that quickly. Any quick questions or comments before I move on to the bridge curriculum? All right, thank you. There's 3 items that I want to talk about in our update on the bridge curriculum. Again, even if you're a CTE folk and you maybe don't run a bridge, I really want you to take a look at what we have to offer, because there's lessons in here that you could pull out. You're going to see some big contextualization of workplace skills that are in our bridges and our contextualized lessons in our lesson bank. So we are excited that in FY23, the healthcare bridge for Illinois was completely revised. A few things have changed in healthcare over the last 10 years, and that's actually when the original healthcare bridge was created, was in 2013. So we were happy to revise it. In that bridge, we have ESL, language arts, and math standards that are targeted throughout. And Erin's going to also put that link in the chat if you want to take a look. It's housed on the Excellence in Adult Education website. There are speaking and listening opportunities, and there's an emphasis on communication, teamwork, and workplace skills. And that's throughout the entire curriculum. It's everywhere. So we're really excited about that. We also wanted to make sure that we gave a shout out to our civics competencies. So that is our IELCE folks that are learning. But here's the thing, don't stop listening if you don't do IELCE, because let's unpack these competencies and see if you think that your learners, whether they're civics competency students or not, could benefit from some contextualized instruction in like EM1, which is identify job titles, responsibilities, wages, and places of work. I mean, that kind of sounds like a good idea for everybody, right? And those are employment competencies. The second one is locate local job market information using the internet, like the IllinoisWorkNet.com or other resources. Again, I think anybody could benefit from that. And SC9 is identify sources of financial assistance for vocational and or post-secondary education. Just to give you a couple of ideas. So these lessons, you don't have to like use them in a continuum. You can go and take a look at them and say, I like this lesson. I'm just going to grab it, whether you're teaching in a healthcare bridge or not, because I think it might be helpful. There's a section on mental health. Again, I think it would be beneficial for many of us to describe situations needing intervention, including domestic violence, child abuse, and mental health issues. If that is something that you need to cover in your classroom, just want you to know there's already something that's been vetted and tried, and it's there for you. Another one is identify community resources for crisis services, including domestic violence, child abuse, and mental health issues. So we're going to look at what those situations are, and then what are the resources for them. So mentioning that for you, giving you a little bit more information about the contextualized bridge choices on the Excellence website that Erin put the link in the chat. There are actually, there's a career pathways bridge, an entrepreneurial bridge, a healthcare, an IT bridge, manufacturing, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. Now the healthcare and the entrepreneurial have recently been updated. The career pathways is under a renovation right now, and we hope that in the next few months that'll be coming out. I'm also taking a look at the IT bridge. Later this year, or early next year, we are hoping to revise the manufacturing and TDL. Again, things have changed a lot, but there's a ton of resources for you. And once again, let me just say, you don't have to be teaching a bridge to go and use some of these lessons. You can pull out whatever you think is helpful for you. Let me tell you a little bit about the entrepreneurial bridge. That came from basically a call from the field. We had so many people telling us that they had students who either came from another country and they'd owned their own business. They would like to start a business here. There's just a large range of people that are interested. So we have a contextualized bridge that's available for you. We do not yet have an entrepreneurial ICAPS option, although there are several programs around the state that are piloting and taking a look at that. And this afternoon, there's a breakout session after this that's looking at the entrepreneurial bridge. And I highly encourage you to go and find out more about that. That's Illinois Valley Community College, who did a great job with their bridge. And also Tara Schwab from SIPDC will be talking about ICAPS options in entrepreneurship. So that is all there for you. That bridge is set in 16 modules. So I'm just going to go through these so you have an idea, because again, think about, is there anything here that you maybe could pull out and use? introduction and class expectations, growth mindset and study of an entrepreneur, SMART goals and starting your own business, building vocabulary and questions to ask before starting a business. The breakout session I was in this morning, we had a couple of wonderful folks from Puitak in Chicago talking about their culinary program. And one of the things that they mentioned was that there's people who've started restaurants and they didn't necessarily, they knew a lot about cooking, but they didn't know about starting their own business. And those are two very different skill sets. Module 5, skimming and scanning, the concept of unique selling proposition, conducting effective market research, note-taking and business plans, paraphrase, summary and setting up a business, close reading and naming your company, online reading strategies and marketing your business, metacognition and publicity, and infographics and bookkeeping. And the last 4 are financing sources for a startup and estimating financing for a business plan, critical thinking and human resources management, critical thinking part 2 and the elevator pitch, and lastly, the culminating project and business communication. As I said, that curriculum lives, as all of the Bridge curriculum lives on the Excellence in Adult Education website, and Erin's already shared that with you, and it's available for anyone to use. You can share it with colleagues. Feel free to use it as much as you possibly can. One last resource that I have for you this afternoon is also, we have a lesson bank. And again, whether you're in adult education or not, I think you'll find some valuable pieces here. So I encourage you to explore the lesson bank. This is fairly new. It's only been out for not even a full year. And the lesson includes college and career readiness standards, essential employability skills in every lesson. There's essential employability skills, and universal design for learning, UDL. Some of the lessons also have those civics competencies that I mentioned. So let me give you just a quick look at what that can look like. You can see that there's, in the first box here, there's the standards. You can see that there's the civics competency, which is compare credit and debit cards. You can see that here's the Illinois essential employability skills. And so we love that every one of these is linked back to what are the employability skills that are part of the Illinois essential employability skills framework. And then lastly, there is some component in here to call out universal design for learning, because we know that that framework is very important to design for variability, to have people to be engaged and be motivated learners. So again, that was a very quick overview, but we encourage you to go and take a look at it. If you have questions, send one of us an email. We'll put our emails in from the SIPDC. If you have questions specifically about the lesson bank and the Bridge curriculum, send that to SIPDC. If you have any questions about ICAPS in general and the tools that Amy and I shared, you can send that to either one of us. And we would be remiss if we didn't remind you one more time to sign up for the cohort convos next week. And I think, Amy, you have some information about the deadline for that, right? Would you like to share it?
Absolutely. So cohort convos is October 26th. Registration will close on Friday, this Friday at 4:30 p.m. So if you were in my session earlier, they talked about how valuable it is for a team to come together. That is the idea, that you bring your CP partner, you bring your adult education partner, you bring your workforce training partner, and you come together to this day. But we do need to get food counts in, so we will be closing registration on Friday. So get your registration in today. It is free. However, you are required to register, and walk-ins will not be welcome. So register, get your stuff together, and we hope to see you next week. Also, a big plug, and Erin laughed at me for this, but it is fall, so the foliage is going to be beautiful by next Thursday. So get in your car, see the beautiful foliage, come to Urbana, and have a great day learning about ICAPS. And it's a great opportunity to really have that hands-on. You'll have Angela in the room, you'll have Sarah in the room, you'll have myself in the room, and we can help you navigate wherever you are within the process of developing your ICAPS. We will meet you there. and move you through the process and support you on your journey.
Amy, if I could just answer a question in the chat. Elizabeth asked if there will be a spring session too. And I've been asked that question a couple of times. We are looking into providing a pre-session to the IASA conference, which is the Adult Education Conference in March in Springfield. So look for more information to come about that. The details have not been finalized, but we are looking at having a spring event, both to pull together the people that are going to meet next week. We want to have an opportunity for them to come back together and kind of say, okay, this is what's happening. Maybe there's new questions based on the progress that they've made. But I'm assuming that you're also wondering to know if there's a spring opportunity. And so we'll make sure you check out the ICAPS website, and we will give that information to you as soon as it's available.
Spring would be a great event. I'm not saying it won't be, but it will not be the cohort convo. So if you want to get started, now's the time to get started. So make time.
Plus, you will not see the fall foliage, which
Right.
Amy's really plugging this year.
The leaves have not changed yet, so they're changing right now. So it's a big deal.
It is a big
Plus,
deal.
our
I agree
speakers
with
on my
you.
session were from Galesburg, which is where they do the scenic drive. So anyway, we're here to support you with other resources, and Sarah, I'll let you take us home.
Yeah, so thank you guys. We so appreciate the work that you're doing. And so here is Amy and my contact information. If you have any questions, please reach out. We'll be glad to give you. And we do encourage for the cohort convos to come with teams, because we see the value of teams. However, if that's not a possibility for you, do not let that be a barrier to you coming to the cohort convos. So if there is nobody else at your program, or maybe there's just two of you, please still come, because we found last year there was so much synergy in the room with the individual teams, but then between groups of people. You know, Amy mentioned that we'd all be there, but there's also all the experience of the programs that are in the room, and you're going to get the value of that as well. And because we're all educators, there's nothing we like better than helping each other out and sharing our resources. So there we go. That's all we have for you. At this point, we're going to give you 13 extra minutes to check all that email that you have not been paying attention to because you've been fully engaged with the Transitions Academy. Our next session will start at 2 o'clock. We'll have breakout sessions again. There's 3 options for you. Thanks, everybody.